Thanks, chat. I want to welcome Aiden, Zirene, Moon to the desk to help us break down Dig's victory. Now, guys, that brings Dig to 12-10 on the season, just above 500. Phreak, you called that one in the pregame show.
Sure.
Like that. But what I want to discuss is the fact that they chose Nidalee and Xerath, which they did yesterday. Didn't have success yesterday, did today. What was the difference there that allowed them to win today's game?
Well, the difference is actually really obvious. It's the fact they did not have Elise, Morgana, and Kog'Maw. It's silly, but it's true. So I think Dignitas is best served when they play like this exact team comp. Like in blind pick, and if I were Dignitas' coach, I'd be like, pick these 5 champions. Because you have Kiwi Kid on a playmaking initiator, and most importantly, a tank. He dies a lot for his team, but that's a good thing because he's in there in the front making sure he takes hits so other people can do a good job. You have Xerath for Shifter, which is just his spirit champion. Like it was Nidalee a few patches back. It's these long-range pokers that can always participate in fights, clean up kills. He's not at risk, but he's always dealing damage. Zion Spartan on a heavy split pusher. This is the style where they say, look, these guys are playing the types of champions that work for the players' play styles. Crumbs just puts wards everywhere to make sure that everyone's staying safe, and they just focused really heavily on objectives, and you saw them just control Dragon, control the ward coverage, and then when they did make plays, they made it as a big team.
Then my next question would be, why would it be that EG takes Aurelia into that Nidalee after watching Zion be unsuccessful yesterday against Lulu? Like, they chose to go for a melee kind of brawlery champion instead.
Well, that's basically the thought is it's a counter pick. They had every opportunity to pick Nidalee for Inox, and I know Inox knows Nidalee. It's simply a fact that says, look, we're going to bring it out here. We got to beat Dignitas. We got to pick up some wins. Nothing can be hidden. We've got to go for what we think wins the game. And in EG's minds, they say, Aurelia beats Nidalee. We get this matchup. Inox wins late game. We stop the Dig split push. We stop their ability to play the late game, and then we win. Now, unfortunately, Crumbs flipped that matchup, but that was the mindset.
All right, now Zirene. EG is generally pretty decent in the early game, and they did exactly that. We watched the bot lane get ahead by about 50 CS. So what is your mindset now on the side of Dignitas, knowing that your bot lane is so far behind against a Jinx of all carries?
So they picked Lucian into that matchup. Usually he's a lane bully, but he ate a couple bindings early. The level 2 came out, and the Chompers just set it up perfectly. Kiwi Kid loves to roam, and the whole idea from EG was let's shut down the roam, and you saw it in the little feature beforehand. Helios hates it when Kiwi Kid is all around the map, just dropping wards and causing pressure and making his life a living hell. They stopped that. But the roam came down bottom to them. There was great teleports. There was the Xerath ultimate that could just be shot down there. And that's what they did, is they focused the bottom lane after getting top lane ahead and just created that advantage. And then Altec actually kept pushing bottom and didn't show up to team fights later. And then when he did show up to team fights, he was the primary target. So Dignitas played it perfectly in target selection and in playing from behind in one lane. Because they went and, like Kobe said, never gank a losing lane. And they did exactly that.
Well, so let's take a look at the point in the game where Dignitas did decide to make a play in the bottom lane. We're going to pull up the replay. It's about 10 minutes in. We have a teleport down from the top lane. Phreak, walk me through this entire clip.
So what's cool about this clip before we start it is that it's basically a big team-wide communication thing. Every single member on Dig is involved in this play. So if you look at the minimap in the top left corner, Nidalee, Zion Spartan is already in the brush waiting to recall. Crumbs is actually holding anyone from coming in, like Aurelia showing up and stunning him to stop that. He's actually watching Elise, so they know the enemy jungler's gone. They know they've got both top laners ready to TP and Zion somewhere safe. Also, look at Shifter on Xerath. He's already cheating down to participate in this fight. In fact, in about 2 seconds, the teleport's going to already start from Nidalee before Kiwi Kid even flash ult. So all 5 members are saying, guys, here's the play. Now, one extra point as well is that 30 seconds ago, Kiwi Kid put that ward in the very bottom brush in that lane. So he said, guys, I have a ward here. This lane's going to push up. Be ready. When they reach our turret, everyone go, and everyone's already on the same page. So as you roll the clip out, watch the engage happen. Kiwi Kid is the playmaker. There's the ulti in. Teleport's already started, and EG just aren't ready for this yet. Ziggs can't get there by the time Xerath does. The ulti's actually going to pick up the kill on Altec in a second. Kiwi Kid's fortunate to get out there, but there's the teleport only now from Aurelia. But Zion's already in the fight picking up kills. Everyone's already getting picked off. All of Dignitas is already doing things to make this. And top lane's being held by Crumbs the entire time. There's actually no option for counterplay here for EG. It's a very perfectly orchestrated fight, and it works out exactly as they intended.
Well, so that's the communication that Zion was talking about in his interview with Jat. Just that as long as they can do that, they can keep up this swapping of information and really make plays around the map, they're going to be successful.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is this seems to be the biggest strength of Dignitas. I think weakness is that if you gum up that, right? They try really hard to get ward control, but they don't play hyper aggressively until everyone's ready, until they have this like perfectly, like immaculately set up play. That's why teams like LMQ or CLG, who make all these aggressive moves all the time, can get under them, because Dig want to play this sort of slow, controlled game, and you can get in the way of that.
Well, so Zirene, now EG's on their back foot. What do you do in this situation where you've now given up kind of global control to a split pushing Italy and things like that to try and get back into the game?
Well, they had a pick composition. They locked in the Elise and Morgana, actually a higher priority for them than locking in the Nidalee, which we know Inox is very good on previously, and they gave that over to Zion, not really fearing that because they saw it yesterday, but it did come up big for them. So they tried picking people off. They tried getting the Xerath at one point. They tried getting Crumbs in the bottom lane with a couple global ultimates. It didn't work out for them, though, because they just didn't have the damage, and they tried split pushing with Altec. And really, EG's strategy, it was a good one, but it wasn't executed flawlessly, and that was the point, because Dignitas just kept catching them out over and over again.
We're going to take a look at one of those pick attempts that you were talking about. At about 22 minutes in the mid lane, they land, or they go in on the Xerath. So go ahead and walk me through this. Explain why it is that EG went for it, and then subsequently why it didn't work out.
All right, there's a lot of things that happened before this. Crumbs was actually in the bottom lane at one point and got hit with a Super Mega Death Rocket and Mega Inferno Bomb that didn't kill him. So those global contribution ultimates are not available for this fight, and then EG start collapsing onto Shifter, thinking they can destroy him. Kiwi Kid comes to his rescue, and the communication in the Phreak play that we saw a couple seconds ago, they are thinking 30 seconds in advance here. Zion is already on his way to this play. Zion, the known split pusher, is already in the vicinity. Shifter gets away off the help from Kiwi Kid, where he takes a cocoon form and starts absorbing damage. Altec was farming the bot lane this entire time, and it was just a fight that Dignitas wanted to pick, and they kind of baited it out there, knowing that Altec was bottom. They brought Cutie Pie mid, so he was already contributing, and there's zero contribution from Altec, because he talked about the Super Mega Death Rocket not being available. So all these factors just went into that team fight that should have been a pick for EG, but because Kiwi Kid was there to save Shifter, it didn't turn out that way.
Well, so after that, it was a pretty much methodical win. They picked up the Baron, and then they just split pushed their way to victory.
Yeah.
Now, the final question is, Dignitas sitting at 12-10. They've shown a good display of what they can do as a team. However, that's with, as Phreak had put it, their best possible team comp. What do they need to do to ensure victory throughout the rest of the split, even if they don't land on these perfect champions?
I think they need kind of just some backup plans. There are other Siege mages, right? You saw first pick Ziggs because EG thought Ziggs was more important than Xerath, and that's not the case. I do want to see what else is left in the playbook. I mean, thankfully, their roster is good enough that they do have fallback strategies. Like, Zion gets ahead is enough to win a game. We've seen those Jax games before. Shifter gets Ziggs is sometimes enough to win you the game. We've seen his, like, 14-2 game on Coast, for example, or his Ahri backdoor against TSM. So there's the room for these great individual playmaking. I just want to see what else is in the strategic playbook for these guys. Maybe it actually is shallow. Maybe they need more. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think that they keep adjusting some picks, but their overall strategy is the same. Kiwi Kid roam, Shifter plays something safe that goes okay in lane. If you go even, you're going to contribute from a long range. You're going to be safe during the fights, not give up a lot of kills. Zion's going to continue to split push, and that's really just the strategy for them, and people have been figuring that out, and that's why they're dropping a little bit in the standings. But because they brought out these new picks that kind of do the same thing, but operate in a slightly different manner, it'll take some adjustment time for other teams. But if they keep adding on more and more to this strategy, because it's their play style, you shouldn't just muck up your play style and be like, okay, I'm going to try something completely different. Zion's going to team fight every time. Then he has to learn this whole new mechanic. You'll drop in the standings a bit, but it's too far in the season. You just stick to what you're doing. Just make it a little more crisp and make other teams have to react to your style and learn you. And that's a huge part of what they're doing.
Well, it was a very solid game by them today. We'll see if they can keep it up. Gentlemen, thank you very much for all of the knowledge and insight. We've got to take a quick break as we ready the rift for our next battle. Blue Shell Team Complexity versus Team Solo Mid. We'll be right back after this.